Hello there everyone and welcome to our newest release. I am so happy to be part of this hop and we are going to be creating a very pretty card with some fabulous fruit inspired images. If you are inspired by this, please keep along and hopping and you will get so much more inspiration with the products from this release. So first up, I am going to be using the fabulous Sweet Apricots layering die set. And what I'm going to do is I am going to cut all of the pieces out of white cardstock and then we are going to colour them in. As you can see, I have arranged all of the images onto my ultra sticky mat and we are going to be doing a lot of ink blending to get these kind of the perfect colour that I wanted to. So first up, I'm going to start with the kind of second layer of the apricots, and to start with I'm going to be using Sunray ink. So I'm just using the Sunray all over that piece that we have there. I've then moved on to the kind of first layer of the opened apricot and we're going to be using the golden honeycomb for that, and I'm then going to be using some of that golden honeycomb to add a shaded touch to the first layer that we've just added colour to. So that's the second layer but the first colour, and I'm then going to use that same colour again. So that's the golden honeycomb over the first layer of the whole apricot. So I'm just going to be using that as the kind of highlight piece, so just around the highlight area. And I'm then going to be using the chamomile ink to add in the shadow to this layer. So this is going to be where it kind of connects to the whole piece right at the bottom. So I'm adding more of that along that bottom edge and just where the nut's going to be on the halved apricot. I'm then going to be using the Snapdragon ink to add the first kind of tone to the bottom piece or the base of the apricots. I did find that this was too orangey later on, so I'll show you a way to kind of make this more apricot-y rather than orangey. So as you can see, I'm just adding that all over that, adding more of the colour to the bottom right side so we can have more of a shaded touch there. I then went in with a little bit of terracotta, and this is just to add or deepen the shadow that we have right on that bottom right and hand edge. And like I said, once this dries, it was a little bit too orangey for me, so we will rectify that in a bit. So for the branches, the little stems, and also the nut, we are going to be using some brown colours. The first one I'm using is the cocoa cream, and I'm just using that to go all over the images. I'm then going to be taking the cocoa hazelnut, or choco hazelnut, sorry, and I'm just going to be adding shading with that tone just to kind of deepen it and add a bit more fun to those. For the little flowers, I am using the orange sorbet first. This is such a beautifully, it's such a really pretty colour. It's so pale, but it's also very peachy at the same time. And I think that is such a beautiful colour for the blossom. So I am going to use this, and I'm adding more of this colour right at the base of all of those petals and kind of gradually going up. I then wanted to darken the kind of centerpiece of the flower, so I am going to be using the Coral Bliss and a micro blending tool just to add a tiny touch of this. And I think that the orange sorbet, and that Coral Bliss are just stunning together. This will not be the last time I use these in conjunction to create a beautiful effect on flowers. So like I said, I found that my apricots were way too orangey for my liking. So I then got the Apricot Frost. This is one of the newest colours, so I kind of forgot I had it. And I am going to be using this to add a kind of all over colour to the base of the apricots, and then also to add this colour to the shaded areas as well. For the flower centres, I'm going to firstly go in with the chamomile. And I am going to kind of darken the centers of these just using a little of the Snapdragon inks. For the leaves, I'm going to start off with the Misty Sage. So I'm using these for all of the leaves, even the ones including around the kind of buds that we have. So I'm going to colour those first in. And then on the little bud pieces, I am going to be using the green opal just to darken the area and then kind of blend that out again with the misty sage. Then we have this huge branch. Now this did take a little bit of ink blending. I think if you didn't want to spend as much time on this, you could definitely kind of cut this out of coloured cardstock and then just kind of darken it in places to add a little bit of drama. So first up, I am going with the misty sage like I did for the other pieces. I'm just going to do that all over, adding a little bit more to the kind of base of the leaf to add that gradual shading. I'm then going to go in with some mossy meadow to add more shading to the leaf. As you can see, I'm going about a third of the way down the leaf with this colour to add that really drama to that piece. And then I'm just using some of the green opal right at the base of the leaf to really darken that as well. I've also used the green opal on the stem. I didn't need to because we will be covering that over with the brown piece that we've already kind of done, but I didn't want this to be too light just in case I didn't line up the branch completely perfectly. Once that's done, we can then add everything together, and I am going to be using the glue. This is the most fabulous glue that I've worked with, and I'm so happy that it has such a delicate tip on there. So I've just added the branch to the leaf branch, and I'm then going to colour in the little flower centres, and I'm just going to be using some of the golden honeycomb and amber blaze and a little bit of the melted butterscotch to add in that flower centre. For the other pieces, we're just going to add these together. I do have the layering guide off to the side, but I don't think that you're going to need it that much. These apricots line up really, really well just along the top edge, and it's really easy to do it. You just need to make sure that you've got the layers in the right kind of order when you're doing it, so you get the little highlight piece through the first layer, but other than that, these are so simple to put together. So once I have finished with the kind of full apricots, I'm then going to do the one that has been halved. This one is so cool. I love the effect that it really looks like it's juicy by having those kind of cutouts on that first layer. It's so, so clever. I also have these stems to add on to all of the little apricots. I'm just adding a touch of glue right at one edge of that and then just adding that into place onto the top. You don't need to be too perfect with this, just make sure that it's there, and I think you're good to go. The little nut fits in that space perfectly. I'm then going to move on to the flowers. Now these little flowers, they are so tiny, so delicate and so, so cute, but they do have the keyhole system on here. So you're going to be able to put these together like you do the larger kind of craft of flower sets that you have. So you just need to make sure that you're lining up that kind of keyhole die cut right in the center of each die cut, and then your flowers are just going to be perfect. We do have like little highlights on these, and it really does help to use the glue with that really tight nozzle that it has, and also the tweezers to get them perfectly positioned every time. I love the fact that when you are using the keyhole system, you kind of put the flower together just using that keyhole system, and you have that hole there once you have just about finished, and then when you add on that last layer, it covers it up at that hole, and no one is going to know that you've had assistance lining that up. It just makes me smile every time that everything can just be perfect again and again. So for this kind of open flower, we do have the flower centers to add in there. I am just adding those in while I go, and then we're going to add this flower together. This flower, I did make a little bit of a mistake. So as you can see, I've put those 2 petals down, and then I added the flower center. I wasn't paying too much attention. At this point, I was like, something looks a little off. I then realized that I'd forgot to put the 3rd petal on, so I just lifted those up. The glue hadn't set just yet, so I was able to remove that and then add it down, and it still stuck perfect when I did that. So I'm just going to add in the extra little layers to this little flower. As you can see, I'm just covering up the keyhole system, and then we're going to add over the little kind of flower fold that we have lastly on this piece here. And then once that's done, all of our images are put together, and then we can create the kind of sentiment. I'm going to go in with the Today is a Good Day, and I want to cut this out of gold foil. So I have some brushed gold foil here, and I'm just going to kind of create this into a sticker. So I'm using some of the double-sided adhesive from Altenew, just adding that into place where I need that on my gold foil cardstock. And for the sentiment, I wanted to kind of have a different look. I did not want the whole sentiment on this. It was much too large and it would have just covered everything. So I am going to be using just the part that says today is a good day. So as you can see, I've used some vellum on the shadow piece and just used that on the place that I needed it. I didn't need the full sentiment, just that today is a good day. So I have done that with the vellum on the shadow piece. And then I've also used the actual kind of sentiment of the gold foil that we've just added the double-sided adhesive to. Now, these are really quite easy to line up on that shadow piece. I'm just using some tweezers just to make sure that everything is nicely kind of centered before I pop it down. But I just think that this is such a great sentiment. And I am loving the kind of mix of fonts that we have on here. It kind of looks like a chalkboard calligraphy, and it makes me smile just how pretty this is. So I'm adding that on to there, rubbing that down. Now, there are some little letters which says is a. And to kind of line these up, I've removed all of the other pieces, and I'm just going to line that up with the sentiment and then push those through. I think I would have struggled to do that any other way, but if you guys know another way to do that, please let me know. And then I'm just going to remove the rest of the kind of vellum that's not needed for the sentiment. For my card base, I'm just going to add a little bit of ink around the top edge, and I wanted to add a kind of blue color for the sky, but I wanted it a little bit more warm, so I have gone for the pool ink. I'm just using a small blending tool, to add the ink around the outside and kind of add a white highlight right in the center. For my images, I am going to be sticking these down with some instant dimension foam tape. I'm just adding them to the leaves, and then you can kind of play around with how you want this to look before you press that down good and proper. I'm just going to remove the kind of top stem, but I do want that leaf dangling over the edge. I think it kind of adds a little bit more drama that way. So for my apricots as well, we are going to be sticking those down with some instant dimension foam tape. I stuck one of them down. I then stuck the second one down and then realized that I didn't like where the second one was when I tried to arrange this kind of half opened one. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to lift that up. Thankfully, I hadn't pressed this down completely perfectly yet, because once that instant dimension foam tape sticks, it sticks. So I was happy that I hadn't pushed it all the way down yet. You could always dry fit first without adding any adhesive, but I just went for it. And then I'm going to add in the flowers again with some of that instant dimension foam tape. These flowers are so, so pretty. And these would definitely just work on a card on their own. So don't think that, oh, I always need to use them with the apricots. You don't. I think these would be very pretty on a clean and simple card, just as they are. For the sentiment, I have used some instant dimension foam tape, but I've just added it behind the gold letters. So I cut it really thin so they wouldn't show through the vellum. And here is the finished card. I really do hope that you like it. If you do want some more inspiration using the products from this release, please make sure that you keep hopping, because a lot of the design team have some fabulous things to show you. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more fabulous inspiration. Hello there, crafty friend, Lydia here. Just popping in to say that you can get your daily dose of crafting tips, techniques and tutorials just like this by subscribing to the Altenew YouTube channel. All you need to do is click on that little bell up there and you will never miss a video. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.